Welcome to America Reads Fun Learning Activities. We are college students who create learning activities for kids. Our fun activities are focused on reading, writing, and math. Thank you for joining us to learn today. In today's activity, we will be learning all about functions. Functions are one of my absolute favorite things to learn about. When I was younger, I used to get so excited whenever I was in math class and I saw that we had to do them. Of course, it was not easy for me when I first started learning them, but now that I know how to do it, I love them, and I'm excited to share this love with you today. So, the first thing that we need to do when learning about functions is recognize a few key terms. These are the three main components to a function. There's the input, the output, and the rule. So, let's start with the inputs and outputs. An input is our starting point. It's what we are plugging into the function and what is changing by whatever the rule of the function says. The output, on the other hand, is our ending point. It's what comes out of the function and is what the result of the rule changing the input is. It is important to note that every single input has only one output. Now we have the rule. The rule is what tells us what to do to an input to get its corresponding output. So let's put that all together with an example to make sure you understand. This 7 right here is our input. In the next box, we see that it says to add 11. That is our rule. And when we use the rule to change the input, we get our output. So if we add 7 and 11, we get 18. So 18 is our output. Now let's use those terms we just learned with another example. In this example, I want you to imagine that you just got your very first job, and they are starting your pay at $11 an hour. Congrats! Let's figure out how much money you would make for every hour you work. Before we do this, let's break it down to determine what our inputs, outputs, and rule would be. Before we do this, let's break it down to determine what our inputs, outputs, and rules would be. Well, the number we are changing each time is the number of hours you work, so that would be our input. Every hour you made $11, so our rule would be to multiply the input by 11. That leaves the total money you made after so many hours to be our output. Let's start with 1 hour. If you worked 1 hour for $11 an hour, how much money would you have made total that day? That's right, $11. Now let's do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 hours. You try on your own and then see if you got the same answers as me. If you need to pause the video to give yourself some more time, you may do so. So if you work 2 hours, you would multiply 2 by 11 to get $22 total. 3 hours for $11 would be $33 total. 4 hours would be $44. 5 hours would be $55. 6 hours would be $66. 7 hours would be $77. And 8 hours would be $88. So, if you worked for 8 hours that day, our function tells us that you would make a total of $88. You are doing such a great job at your new job that they have just given you a raise, but they didn't tell you how much you are making now. However, you know how many hours you worked each week, so when you get your paycheck, you are able to figure out what your pay is based on the hours, which is the input, and the total you made that week, which is the output. Weirdly enough, this actually happened to me once, and I needed to do this to figure out how much money I was making an hour. So, the first week, you worked 13 hours a week, and you made $195. The second week, you worked 17 hours and made $255. The third week, you worked 20 hours and made $300. And then the final week, you worked 25 hours and made $375. So using these inputs and outputs, let's figure out the rule. To figure out the rule, we need to see what each of these input and output pairs have in common. Well, I see that as the amount of hours increases, so does the total pay. So that means my rule has to be either an addition or multiplication rule, because subtraction and division would make the total pay go down when the hours went up. So let's see if the rule is using addition. To do this, we would actually have to subtract our input from our output. So $195 minus 13 is 182. Now, let's see if we can add 182 to the second input to get the second output. So our output was 182 and our input was 117. When we add those two together, we get 199. But our output is supposed to be 255. So that means our rule must be multiplication. So let's try it and make sure. Just like we used subtraction to see if our rule was an addition rule, we use division to see if our rule is a multiplication rule. So let's divide 195 by 13. When I did this, I got 15. Is that what you got? Okay, now let's multiply our second input, 17, by 15. Do we get 255 like we're supposed to? Yeah. What about 20 times 15? Does that come out to 300? What about 25 times 15? Does that come out to 375? Great, now we know our rule is to multiply by 15. So, your new wage is $15 an hour. What an awesome raise! Now we are going to learn a new key term. Every input and output makes up something called an ordered pair. Ordered pairs are used to help us graph functions on a graph. When we write an ordered pair, we would first write the input, follow it with a comma, and then write the output. And we also have to make sure we put these parentheses around it too. Then, when we graph the ordered pairs, we would use the input to tell us how far over on the x-axis we should go, and the output to tell us how far up the y-axis we should go. Think of ordered pairs as though they are the directions telling us how to graph a function. Let's practice that with the first 4 inputs and outputs we had on the last function. So here I have written the first ordered pair for you. You do the other 3 on your paper and see if you get the same thing. I put the table on the screen for your reference. Here's what each ordered pair and its point on the graph should look like. How did you do? Now, before you go, let's play a game I like to call Guess Who. In this game, I'm either going to give you a rule and have you fill in the blanks on the table, or I would give you a completed table and have you figure out what the rule is. Take your time and pause the video if you need more time. Ready, set, go. Here is number 1. And here's the answer to number 1. Here is number 2. And here's the answer to number 2. Here is number 3. And here's the answer to number 3. Here is number 4. And here's the answer to number 4. And last but not least, our bonus question. Now, this may be a little trickier because there is no rule and some of the blanks are empty for you to figure out. But don't stress it. Try your best and I'll show you the answers at the end. Here is the answer to the bonus question. How did you do? I think that you did excellent and I hope you are learning to love functions just as much as I do. Thank you for learning with us today. We hope you come back and learn some more. Please like and subscribe to our channel, and we will be back with more videos. Until next time.